Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when the world tells you what you're not, what you can't do, what you'll never become, and why you should give up. But in those moments, there's a quiet voice within, a heartbeat of hope, whispering that you were made for more. That voice is where your journey begins, not with what you've lost, not with what's missing, but with what's already inside you. Today, I invite you to lean in, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because what you're about to hear is not just a speech, it's a reminder that no matter where you come from, no matter what's behind you, real change, real strength, and real joy all begin with one powerful choice. Let's begin. Positivity is not something that just happens to us when everything goes right. It's not a reward for a perfect life or a luxury for those who have it easy. It's a decision we make, often in the middle of chaos, pain, or uncertainty. It's easy to smile when life is smooth, but the real test of a positive mindset comes when the winds are against us. Think about a rainy day. The clouds are dark, the ground is wet, and everything feels a bit heavier. You can sit inside and complain about the weather, or you can grab an umbrella and go outside anyway. The rain doesn't change just because you wish it away. But your attitude can change how you experience that rain. You can choose to see it as a disruption or a reminder that even storms serve a purpose. In the same way, life will bring storms. There will be loss, rejection, failure, and days where it feels like everything is falling apart. But positivity is not ignoring those things. It's not denying the pain or pretending that nothing's wrong. Instead, it's about choosing to respond differently. It's saying, yes, this is hard, but I believe I'll get through it. It's finding the lesson in the struggle, the strength in the weakness, and the beauty in the brokenness. There are people in this world who have very little by material standards, yet they radiate joy. And there are others who seem to have everything: money, comfort, success, but still feel empty inside. That alone should tell us something. Positivity doesn't come from what we own or how perfect our life looks. It comes from what we believe deep down. It comes from choosing to live with hope, even when the evidence says otherwise. Sometimes we wait for things to get better before we allow ourselves to feel peace. We think, once I get that job, once I'm healed, once everything calms down, then I'll be happy. But what if you didn't wait? What if you chose to believe in the good now, not because everything is fixed, but because you've decided not to let your circumstances define your mindset? There's great power in that decision. When you stop letting outside situations control your inner world, you become stronger. You become freer. You begin to realize that peace and joy are not things the world gives you, they're things you cultivate from within. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it takes effort. But every time you choose a positive thought over a negative one, you build a habit. You train your mind to look for what's possible instead of what's broken. And that habit becomes a foundation you can stand on when life tries to knock you over. Positivity doesn't mean you'll never feel sad, angry, or afraid. It means you won't stay there. It means you won't let those emotions be the final voice in your story. You acknowledge them, but you don't let them lead. You choose to move forward with faith, with hope, with resilience, and that choice, that's where your power is. Two people can go through the exact same situation and come out of it with completely different stories. One might be filled with bitterness, while the other grows stronger and more compassionate. The difference isn't always in what happened, it's in how they saw it. Perspective is powerful. It shapes how we interpret the world, how we respond to challenges, and how we define ourselves in the middle of everything we go through. When something painful happens, our first reaction might be to ask, "Why me?" But sometimes the more life-giving question is, "What can this teach me?" That shift in thinking doesn't erase the pain, but it opens the door to something deeper. It allows growth. It makes room for meaning. It takes what was meant to break you and turns it into something that builds you instead. Perspective can make a mountain look like a wall or like a challenge to climb. It can make failure feel like the end or like a lesson in disguise. It can turn a delay into a curse or into a setup for something greater. The situation might not change, but when your mindset shifts, your whole experience shifts with it. Think about a person stuck in traffic. One driver is fuming, yelling, pounding the steering wheel, focused on every red light and every slow car. Another driver in the same traffic turns on music, breathes deeply, and uses the time to reflect or relax. Nothing outside has changed. The same cars, the same road, the same delay, but one person is stressed and the other is at peace. Why? Perspective. It works the same way in relationships, in dreams, in failure, in success. The way you look at things often becomes more important than the things themselves. Some people walk through tough seasons and still smile, not because they are in denial, but because they've learned to see beyond the moment. They've learned to look for the lesson instead of just the loss. They've trained their eyes to find hope even in the shadows. There are moments in life when we don't get to choose what happens to us, but we always get to choose how we see it. That choice is where freedom begins. When you begin to believe that every challenge has a purpose, every trial has something to teach, and every ending can be the start of something new, you stop feeling powerless. You start living with purpose, even in the hard moments. The way we talk to ourselves plays a big role too. If you tell yourself you're a failure, your mind will find reasons to agree. But if you speak to yourself with kindness and truth, reminding yourself that you are capable, valuable, and still growing, then even in failure, you'll find strength. That inner voice shapes your outlook, and your outlook influences your outcome. Sometimes we wait for life to get easier before we change our perspective, but often it's the other way around. When you shift how you see things, life starts to feel lighter. Not because everything magically gets better, but because you become better at facing it. You begin to notice possibilities where before you only saw problems. You find gratitude in places you never thought to look. Your past doesn't have to define your future. What someone said about you doesn't have to become your identity. What went wrong doesn't cancel out what can still go right. When your mind starts to see differently, your life starts to move differently, and even the smallest shift in perspective can be the beginning of a big transformation. It's easy to look around and feel like you're missing something. Maybe it's a job you wish you had, a relationship that ended, a skill you don't think you have, or a body that doesn't match what the world calls normal. And when all your attention goes to what's missing, life starts to feel small, frustrating, and unfair. But something powerful happens when you begin to shift that focus, when you start looking at what you do have instead of what you don't. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it gives it context. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing what's still good even when things are not. That shift doesn't mean you stop dreaming or reaching for more. It just means you stop believing that joy is only waiting for you in the next thing. Because if you're always focused on what you lack, you'll miss what's right in front of you. There are people who have less than you in many ways, less money, less health, less opportunity, but they walk around with more joy. Why? Because they've learned to count what they have, not what they're missing. They've trained their eyes to see the blessings, not just the gaps, and that attitude changes how they live, how they love, and how they keep moving forward. Focusing on what you have doesn't mean settling, it means starting where you are. You may not have all the tools or answers, but you've got something. Something real, something strong, something you can build with. Maybe it's your resilience, maybe it's your voice, maybe it's a friend who stood by you or a moment of peace in the middle of a long battle. It might feel small, but it matters. That's your foundation. When you keep your eyes fixed on everything you're not, you begin to feel like you're not enough. But when you remind yourself of what you've already overcome, of the progress you've made, and the strength you didn't know you had until you were tested, that's when confidence grows. That's when hope returns. It's also about recognizing the value in the simple things. A sunrise, a deep breath, a kind word, a chance to try again. These are things we often take for granted because we're chasing something bigger. But sometimes the things we overlook are the very things holding us together. When you start to notice them, you begin to feel grounded again. You remember that life is more than achievements and milestones. It's made up of moments. And every moment is a gift. There will always be things you wish were different. That's part of being human. But when you focus too much on what's missing, you start to believe you're incomplete, and that's not the truth. You are whole even in progress. You are valuable even when things aren't perfect. You are equipped even when it feels like you're lacking. You don't need everything to begin. You just need to begin with what you already have. And more often than not, it's more than you think. Strength doesn't always come from having more. It often comes from using what you've got with purpose and gratitude. Your mindset will determine whether your current season feels like a desert or a field of opportunity. And that mindset starts with focus. What you focus on grows. So if you keep feeding thoughts of lack, you'll feel more empty. But if you focus on the good, even the small good, it begins to multiply. Your energy shifts, your confidence grows, your heart opens to what's possible, and little by little, the life you once thought was missing something begins to feel full. A positive attitude is more than just a personal mindset. It's something that radiates outward and touches the lives of others. Every time you choose to respond to a difficult moment with hope, with calm, or with kindness, you're not only helping yourself, you are making a difference in the environment around you. People notice. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. Your attitude can either lift others or bring them down, and positivity is a force that lifts. Think about the last time you met someone who was genuinely optimistic. Not someone pretending everything was perfect, but someone who carried peace in their tone, warmth in their eyes, and faith in their words. Being around them probably made you feel lighter, encouraged, less alone. That's the power of a positive spirit. It creates space for others to breathe, to hope, and to believe that maybe things aren't as bad as they seemed. We live in a world where negativity spreads fast. One harsh word, one angry post, one discouraging comment can ripple through a group like wildfire. But positivity can spread just as fast, sometimes faster. A smile from a stranger, a reassuring word from a friend, a moment of laughter during a tough day. These are small acts, but their impact is anything but small. They remind people that kindness still exists, that good still has a voice. You may never know who needed your light on a dark day. You might not realize that your calm in a stressful situation gave someone else the courage to keep going. The way you carry yourself in hard times, the way you choose to keep loving when it's difficult, the way you speak life when others are silent, that matters. It plants seeds in the hearts of people watching, even if you don't see them grow right away. Positivity also builds trust. When others see that you consistently choose encouragement over complaint, solutions over blame, and grace over judgment, they start to believe you're someone they can lean on. It creates safety. It builds connection, and in a world full of doubt and noise, being someone others feel safe around is a rare and powerful thing. It's not about pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It's about choosing to believe that good can still come out of the struggle. When you model that belief, others start to wonder if maybe it's possible for them too. Your story, your attitude, your resilience, They become proof that hardship doesn't have to be the end of the road. And that proof can be life, changing for someone silently fighting their own battles. Even in leadership, whether formal or not, a positive attitude sets the tone. A coach, a teacher, a parent, a team leader, when they walk into a room with hope in their voice and strength in their presence, the atmosphere shifts. People feel more confident. They're more willing to try. They feel seen and valued. That's not magic, it's mindset. It's emotional leadership, and anyone can do it. The beauty of a positive attitude is that it doesn't require perfection. It just requires presence. Showing up with an open heart, choosing to encourage instead of criticize, choosing to believe instead of doubt, and the more consistently you do that, the more contagious it becomes. Sometimes we underestimate how powerful our attitude really is. But every day, we have the opportunity to add light or add weight to the spaces we walk into. When you choose light, you give others permission to do the same. You become a reminder that even in a broken world, there are still people who choose love, hope, and grace. And that reminder can stay with someone long after the moment has passed. Real change doesn't start with a new job, a fresh relationship, or a move to a different city. It doesn't begin with external shifts or material upgrades. Those things might help temporarily, but if what's happening on the inside remains the same, then eventually the outside starts to reflect it again. True transformation begins in the heart, in the mind, in the quiet places no one else sees. It starts when you decide to see differently, think differently, and believe differently. You can try to fix your life by rearranging the circumstances around you. But if you're still carrying the same mindset, the same insecurities, and the same wounds, those things will follow you. That's why so many people feel stuck, even when everything around them seems to change, because nothing really shifts until something inside of them does. Inner change requires honesty. It takes a willingness to look in the mirror and not just see what you want to see, but what's real. Not with shame, but with courage. You can't heal what you're not willing to face, and facing it means taking responsibility. Not for everything that happened to you, but for how you move forward. That's where your power is. That's where growth begins. When you start working on your inner world, your thoughts begin to change. And when your thoughts change, your decisions follow. Then your habits shift. And before long, your entire life looks different, not because someone else came to rescue you, but because you chose to become someone who didn't need rescuing anymore. You chose to rise. You chose to evolve. This kind of change is rarely loud. It doesn't usually happen in one dramatic moment. It's built in quiet choices, choosing forgiveness instead of bitterness, choosing to try again after failure, choosing to speak truth instead of fear. These decisions may feel small, but over time they build a life that's rooted in strength and clarity. There's something powerful about realizing that you don't need permission from anyone else to change. You don't need everyone to believe in you or understand you. All you need is a decision within your own soul to grow, to heal, to become. That decision might be scary. It might feel lonely at first, but it's the most important one you'll ever make. You might not be able to control the people around you, your past, or every circumstance that comes your way, but you can control your response. You can control what you carry forward. You can decide what you want to keep and what you're finally ready to release. That's the kind of power that can't be taken from you, and as you change from the inside, the outside starts to reflect it. The way you speak shifts. The energy you bring into a room shifts. The kind of people you attract, the opportunities you recognize, the way you handle pressure, it all begins to change, not because the world suddenly became easier, but because you became stronger. You learn to stop chasing validation and start building self-respect. You stop waiting for someone to tell you who you are and start standing on your own identity. And even when challenges come, you face them differently. You may still fall, but you don't stay down as long. You may still hurt, but the hurt no longer defines you. You begin to respond from a place of peace instead of panic, vision instead of fear. This is the change that lasts, not because it's quick, but because it's deep. It's the kind of change that no one can undo because it's not tied to status or approval. It lives in your heart, and once that shift happens, everything else begins to follow. So when life feels overwhelming, when the weight of what's missing seems heavier than what's in your hands, when your circumstances scream louder than your hope, remember this. Your power is not in the perfection of your situation, but in the posture of your heart. Every change you long for, every break through you're hoping for, every ounce of strength you need, it all begins within you. It begins with a decision to choose positivity, to shift your perspective, to focus on what you have, to influence others with light, and to grow from the inside out. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. You are the moment. And when you start living from that place of inner strength and clarity, the world around you begins to change in ways you never imagined. Thank you for listening. Keep believing, keep growing, and never forget, you have more power than you think.